All right, so since the eclipse, I've been getting a lot of people sending me photographs and videos, and some really nice quality, high resolution camera work with filters on it. I still see the solar spots and sunspots on the sun as it comes into totality. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit here so you can see the full image. So then what I was doing was just taking that into cranking up the saturation and reducing the curves and things to see what I could actually just see in the image. So this is the original image, and I took up the curves. Before was to see if I could get a moon to render any kind of a crescent, anything or in front of the sun to indicate that it's actually the moon, because we keep looking for the eclipses always occur at no moon, and you never see the moon approach it, and you never see the moon exit. And in my 3D software, I was trying to render that and actually model it in advance to get an idea of what we would expect to see. Standard diffraction and particle physics. And that's what this image is here. I put in an artificial sphere. The particles are there, the sun object is at the right distance, and it's the scale, and the luminosity is approximated. And then I'm passing a moon in front of the sun to occult it and simulate. So this is CGI, obviously I got the sun here, and to simulate an eclipse, just to study what might happen. Actually pass a solid object in front of an illuminated object. Well, you would expect to see, since it's supposed to be a sphere, you should see a crescent of some type passes into the light frame, and then the shadow starts to cast. And then the closer it gets to totality, well, then you would see it eventually go black, but still have this diamond ring effect, which we do see. Found interesting is there's no crescent coming in and there's no crescent coming out during a natural eclipse. And so when I started messing with the levels on the pictures, it's like there is no object here occulting the sun. What I'm seeing here is actual warping of the field, the magnetic field of the sun, our perspective through. It's like it's coming down the center of a toroidal magnetic field through a pipe, and it's actually crossing into a node point where the phase is starting to shift, like a musical note on a guitar. If you hit at the seventh harmonic, it vibrates both sides of the string, but those tones are now opposite, which gives you that nice high pitch ring. It ends up being a harmonic, and they cancel each other out, so it vibrates at that center point. To be sure, I was like, well, I'll take some photos of another friend of mine from a different state. This is Robert's image, and he's from Alabama. It was from Montana, Bradley Gillen's image, and this is Robert House's image from Montana, from Alabama area. This is his original. There is no occulting the sun that I could tell. This was the totality. This one at random found on Facebook, and it was a great shot. I pulled it down as well, and you can see that there's definitely a shift during the total solar eclipse, and you can see the phasing of it, where the one side of the magnetic vortex tunnel, so to speak, is now acting like a mirror and reflecting the red spectrum from the other side, crossing over, flipped and reflected from this side. The green's being on the inside of this disc, just the black. That's just black light. There's nothing there, but it's actually just creating like a tunnel. No matter what spectrum I put it in, and you can't see there's no moon. And typically, we're leaning heavily towards the the moon being, here's another photo, you know, if you can see that many occasions it's actually backlit, and they say, okay, well, this is Earthshine. Well, I don't buy into that. I think the moon is actually has a bit of both. It's self-luminous depending on the phase of it, and it's also reflective and can absorb sunlight, and it's actually, to a degree, right? It's being lit up on the inside. It's like a semi-solid, hollow type of refracting crystal and metal crystal type of object. And I did the same with the moon. So I raise it, and you can kind of see it. That's exactly what's happening. It's dark here. You crank up the saturation on it. Well, now it's actually, the light's coming through it and being canceled out on the top side. You can't see it here. It's an inverse image, so it's, to me, it appears to be hollow every time I do. And the other things I noticed during the eclipse I found was a lot of people were catching this type of image. So it's going into almost totality here. There's a forward projected image being graphically beamed in and appearing in the sky below where the actual light source is, the hue around it, and it's a perfect crescent moon type of shape. And this is an independent photo, not taken by this person. This is another photo done by Paul Hall. He's from Nashville. You can see that's actually being split into the spectrum of the red spectrum, and then the blue shift as an inverted image, so it's actually upside down light source, which is the similar one that you got here. And so then I looked at 360 cameras at a I did find one really good high altitude camera, and it was done at 75,000 feet during totality. This is the sun. Granted, it was at really high temperature, so there is a little bit of icing on the 360 lens. So these are ice crystals that are being illuminated. However, the light that's coming from the source, sunlight source, you can tell it's coming from different angles. Like it's actually coming at all angles and reflecting into these little orbs of ice crystals, either between the camera and the light source, or they could actually be on the camera lens itself. Move, and they seem to stay with the sun object as it moves around in the field of light. Some fantastic images as I look at that. I mean, you can't deny it. That's crystal. There's crystal stuff going on there, like refraction within everywhere you look. Some fantastic images with a perfectly flat plane, by the way. I'll point that out. You can see that nice flat plane on the 360 camera. Feet with these orbs of crystal refraction. This was just prior to totality. Now let's see, it's actually starting to arch like a dome, like a crystal dome. And what I found, even to correlate the two together, was that when coming down to the people on the ground that were taking pictures, some of them, up on their stuff enough to turn around and take a picture of the ground as the light comes through the trees. Wherever there's a shadow in the leaves of the trees, and it's like a pinhole camera of these little half-moon crescents again appearing on the ground everywhere they looked. And some pictures of that too. That's what's happening. So that refraction between the trees. Kind of finalized that. I topped it off with some stuff that I knew happens in Ceres to make sure the same thing as this moon. This isn't the eclipse, but just a standard full moon on a decent night. You can see that the wire's passing through the luminary, and then the image is being projected forward because the moon, so it's being projected forward. So it'd be like forward X-ray scattering. appearing to the camera within the camera lens and being inverted upside down. So this is the shadow of that wire. The light's been canceled, and it's a perfect picture of the moon appearing below where the light actually is. That people don't get confused as to why they see this happen. They're trying to take a picture of the moon, they end up with this secondary over. It's like a double exposure within the camera lens itself. This one was another 360 camera. So it was you couldn't actually see the sun in here anywhere at all, and it looked like all these crystals. If I zoom in on that, it's like, look at all these little tiny circles and crystals and the same effect. So I had to try to conclude that either that is ice on top of the camera and they got iced out completely going up to the balloon above, and this would be either ice on top of the camera lens, or we're seeing the top of the dome looking up into a fluid. Because when I watched this video during an eclipse, never left this circle. It stayed in this circle and just kind of went around and around and around in this circle as the balloon spun around and the camera moved. Out here at all. It just stayed within the confines of this crystal lattice. Or it's actually the dome itself. It could very well be. So I kind of concluded that what's happening is it's basically diffraction of laser diffraction going on, and it's bringing all these images like a holographic projection into our perspective. And that kind of leads me to the food for thought moment to leave with people, is that on the plane of existence at the bottom, all the light we know is actually outside of our field, and it's all being projected in here through the toroidal fields and magnetic fields down the funnel into the center. Receive light, and it starts to vibrate and refract and make our toroidal is just light manifesting matter at the center of our perspective, and this is where we see it and we perceive it in the third dimension as fourth dimensional beings, like Santos has said before, 40 beings observing the third dimension, and all of this is like the fifth to our perspective. So that's where I'm at with it currently in the research. Sense to you, Santos, and our listeners, and get your feedback on it. Yeah. Which one? This one here? Yeah, essentially what I think it's happening is it's like the sun is like acting like a polarized X-ray type of laser coming through a crystal lattice dome in through the crystals. And when it hits the crystals, which could be like solution, and it's under such pressure and it's so cold that it's actually hydrogen thermal. And it has the lattice work of the cube hexagon, and it starts to refract like the double slit experiment. So, which is why we end up seeing this type of X-ray. It's like you're looking down through a tunnel and you're getting all these images, and it cancels at the center. So if the sun kind of crosses into the center of the, it starts to cross into the center of the gun, the barrel of the gun, so to speak, it just goes black because it can't render itself. It comes an eclipse and passes out the other side, and that's like the double slit type of experiment where it just refracts. What's going on? My best educated guess as to what's happening. So research. Yeah, it is. Like it's the sun. The sun is actually in a magnetic field, in a toroidal magnetic field, and it's the sun's light interfering with itself, canceling itself out. It crosses phase, and it just goes out of phase and then comes back into phase. It's an eclipse, but there's actually nothing there but the sun itself. I can't find any solid object interfering with the sun's light. Perspective.
Yeah, I think he's a 100% spot on. Yeah, because it's a combination of these three substanceless light bodies. Sun, king of the universe. And the moon is considered to be subject, or rather subservient to the sun, simply because, its ability to make the moon invisible when it's anywhere near the sun. Therefore, he's considered to be the king in that respect only. But the node is just a node. There's no body there. It's just the intersecting of two planes. And so, as the sun goes through that, it does seem like the waves going out of phase, and then that node is just that cancellation point, which only lasts for a little bit. And I've looked at the speed of Rahu and the speed of the moon, and whatever caused the eclipse was just too fast. If it was the sun overpassing the moon, it's still way too fast. You need about 6 hours of eclipse, really. And so it's a combination of sun, moon, and north node, which are basically sources of light that when they together like this, the sun's light is cancelled, but you will never see anything solid at all. That definitely there's no solidity to the moon, and there's no solidity to this fulcrum of what we call a node. So